God, creator of all there is and ever shall be, we ask you to send special blessings down on our city and our country. We ask you to guide our council for the highest good of our city and our residents. We ask for peace in the world. For this we thank thee. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Licari, roll call, please.
Mayor Scott Tremblay,
Present.
Vice Mayor William Dittmer,
Here.
Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell,
Here.
Councilman Tom McClary,
Here.
Councilwoman Angel Nally,
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew,
Here.
City Manager Vincent Lupo. Let the record show that City Manager Vincent Lupo is absent from tonight's meeting.
At this time, motion to approve council minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before I open comments to the general public, I wanted to let you know that I spoke to Mr. Lupo. He wanted to apologize for not being here. He's really ill today in terms of he's got flu symptoms. So I wanted to let you guys know that's why he's not here. However, we were able to prepare tonight's agenda and be ready to go with his absence. So I just wanted to let you know that he sent his best to everybody that was here. That having been said, I wanted to open comments to the general public. At this time, I'd like to start with Joe, and I'm going to do the best I can with this.
Yeah, Vittorioso.
Vittorioso?
Yes.
Welcome, Joe.
Yes, hi. I came here about, was January.
Mr. Vittorioso,
Yes.
name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Joe Vittorioso, 4916 Shoreview Court.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, I came here last January with a minor complaint after 40 years of being in the same home in the same area. We have, twice a week I've been woken up, and so have my neighbors. Not all of them, but some have because of trash pickup. Okay, J.D. Parker is the only one that comes at 2 o'clock, between 2 and 3 every morning, twice a week. The biggest problem is the fact is that we'll get new people come in. J.D. Parker will offer them less per month or pay for the year. So what happens is they'll go for it, they don't realize that in the middle of the night, they're gonna be woken. So I've talked to probably 30 or 40 neighbors in the area, and they're all complaining, and I can easily get names and addresses if that's what's needed to maybe put a stop to this. But I went to Parker and I asked him, and I said, why do you come at 2 or 3 in the morning? And he said, because Newport Richie won't let us. I said, well, what's the deal? He says, their ordinance won't let us. I'm hoping that the council here can possibly look at that ordinance, and perhaps we can follow the same thing. Because it's just, I mean, twice a week at that time to hear bottles crashing and the sound of diesel engines, it's a bit much to ask of anybody. And like I say, I'm not alone. It's not an individual thing. So that's my complaint after all these years of living in the same house, the same town, and I love the city. So hopefully that you all will look at this and see what maybe you could do about it.
And you have alternative trash like the rest of us. that
Yeah,
pick up there.
waste service picks up I have waste service, as a matter of fact, and they pick up at anywhere from as early as 9 to as much as 6 o'clock at night, but it's daytime. I know that Newport Richie specifies no pickup before, I believe it's 7 o'clock in the morning. So when I said that to Parker, I said, you're treating us like second-rate citizens. And he said, well, nobody cares. I said, well, let me see what happens, but people do care. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
The next person that I have is Mr. Dave Mueller.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you guys, and appreciate all your hard work. Each and every one of you guys deserve a hand. But I echo his concerns as well, and we as a community can certainly vote with our dollars and stop picking that garbage collector if that's a problem. We can certainly decide to go with one of the other ones if we're given those alternatives. And that's quite frankly what I was thinking to do myself. Anyway, enough with that. What I have here is the Port Ritchie project list, and I believe all of you are aware of this. I was looking at some of the items on here, and I think it's a little stale. I think it could be refreshed. And one item of concern is the kiddie park. I know that we stopped construction on that. They relocated the playground equipment. Don't know where it is, don't know what the process, where it's at in the process. I think some of these items could be updated, and maybe that would help everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. And Pastor Leonard Lord.
Leonard Lord, I pastored 8114 Leo Kidd Avenue. Council attorney, everybody, I just thank you for the opportunity of being able to work with you. First, just really want to thank our police department and fire department. It's just a great time at the backpack giveaway. I thank Pat for relaying last time when I was in a chaplain's meeting, but Officer Jason was with me in orientation before the backpacks, just encouraging them of how to, be safe for getting back to school. Just did a great job. Fire department was great with the kids. So I just want to thank the chief and everybody. It's just really great. Thank you. And then secondly, we try to do things, in the scripture it used to be called Love Feast, and it talked about people that took advantage of that. They said there's spots in your Love Feast. Anyway, we try to do that in October, November, December. So our next community event is we get a lot of fresh fish and fry them up, and that's the last Wednesday of October, which will be the 30th this year. That's October 30th at 6 o'clock. So you're all welcome to come. And then, of course, November is after a church service, and that's 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, so you don't be. And then, of course, Christmas, we have a Wednesday evening a couple weeks before. But I'll give you more update. But it'd just be a joy to have you, let the people meet you, and you can share with them. One other thing before I get to the last thing is if you can help us with the school board. We've been in there, I've been 9 months now, and some of them been there almost a year. And we really need people of influence to go talk to the school board about this boys and girls bathroom, and all the children are so confused. It's really something, and we need people of influence to start helping us. So just looking if there's a way you can help and be there. We've got all the resources, even got the t-shirt. And then finally, if it wouldn't be out of order, I think it'd be good if we just all prayed for Vince and his family if he's going through that. As a chaplain, that's my heart. I just found out about it. Would that be okay to do that? Mayor, is that all right?
Sure, you have time left on the clock.
Okay. Lord, we together here just want to know how to look out for one another's back. And Lord, I do know you said that if they're sick, we're to pray for them. And so, Lord, as a chaplain, I just join together with these that work with Mr. Lupo. We thank you for him. And Lord, we just pray that you would just touch him. Lord, you said you forgive our iniquities and heal our diseases. So, Lord, we just petition you to touch and strengthen him. We thank you for it. In Jesus' name. Lord bless you and thank you. I know that's encouraging when I hear people pray for me when I'm not there. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor Lord.
Yes, sir.
And at this time, I'm going to see if there's any comments from our acting city manager for tonight. It's going to be Dr. Martinez.
Thank you. I do have a few housekeeping things to bring up tonight. Just a reminder that there's a special election on September 10th, which would be the date of the regularly scheduled council meeting. So the next council meeting will be on Wednesday, September 11th. And this same council will preside over that meeting. We also then, the next meeting after that will be the swearing-in ceremony on Monday, September 16th. And then we have 2 budget hearings scheduled in September. One is on Wednesday, the 4th at 6:30 p.m. and Thursday, the 19th at 6:30 p.m. Now, those meetings are generally very brief in nature. They are a formality and requirement of the TRIM budgetary process. By this time, most of the budget has already been decided upon and looked at by City Council. At this time, we just approve the final millage rate and approve each one of the funds So it's more of a procedural meeting than anything, and they generally don't take very long. So those are some of the upcoming dates to be aware of. One other item I wanted to mention that Vice Mayor Dittmer had brought up was starting discussions about streetscaping in the waterfront overlay district, which is specifically lighting in that area, adding sidewalks, and turning some of the streets into one-way streets.
Right. Everybody who's been down to the waterfront district, especially on a Friday or Saturday night, knows how dangerous it can be down there. It's dark, people are drinking, and there are no good sidewalks. Well, we've gotten a few in, but we need more. So the lighting and then the sidewalks are very important. I also think that if we turn it into a one-way circle going around, you won't have those cars passing each other, because it is a narrow street to start with. We possibly will have some money left over after the dredging. So that may
Potentially.
be funds that we can use for that, but I think we need to start looking in that direction. Getting with the business owners down there to discuss the one-way traffic pattern. Personally, I think Old Post, if you're familiar with it, to Treadway would be the first way in. It would take you all the way back out, so you could either get to 19 or make a left on Old Post again to go back around to Treadway. So these are things I want council to start to consider. I went down to Newport Richey just recently, and I haven't been in a while, and there's quite a revitalization of their downtown area, especially on the weekends. And I don't think that, I think we have more to offer, to tell you the truth, with the waterfront. So I think we need to start looking that direction and start putting some ideas together. So I just wanted to put it on there.
And I agree, because I think we're gonna have some CRA money.
That's
So-
what we discussed, and we're
So
hoping.
I think that, I don't know if we can do it all in one foul shot, but I think we should start.
We've also
putting it
had
together.
an offer from the owner of Guild Dogs to help participate in the sidewalks.
Around his property, correct?
Correct, but that's every little bit, so.
Right. And then depending on what happens with Kaiser, would have some impact fee
Correct.
money too, so.
Exactly.
I think if we could put all those together, we may be able to do something fairly nice down there. I
Yep,
agree.
and I think sooner the better. Like I said, it gets dangerous down there. I don't know how many people drive through there at night on, on a late, but a lot of people walking around, and it's dark. So we need to address that.
And I think that we do have some of the hit and runs and those types of accidents, as I've seen, have been down there kind of late at night, people drinking, people leaving the scene. And I think the chief, may have some information.
Just
about that.
to get with your one-way traffic pattern, Dallas and I and Captain Mike Koch, we've been down here already, and we've also spoke with some of the businesses. So we have a preliminary idea of what kind of a one-way traffic flow, but we think it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we should look at, continue to look into.
All right, Dallas, do you think that pattern, because I think it takes them back to 19, which is a big thing, going that way.
Big issue is gonna be, though, you wanna push the traffic more towards the light at Grand.
But they
and
can
to-
do that too, though. If they
Yeah.
turn on Old Post, it can go back to
It's a matter
Grand.
of which way we go.
Because that gives you two outlets, right? One to 19 and one to the light, if you're making a right.
It's just gonna be a matter of getting in there, looking at it, the chief and I can back
Okay,
down.
well, anytime you guys,
Yeah, we'll give you a call
Just
next
call
time we
me.
go down
All
there.
right.
Yep. But we've been down here already, so it's a work in progress, but
We're
we'll
on the-
give you a call and bring
we're
you
on
down.
the same page,
Okay,
so.
absolutely.
And we'll get to you in a minute. I wanted to allow Dr. Martinez to continue. I think she was in the middle of going through some notes. You're all set? Mr. Mueller, I'll allow you just a few seconds if you need comment.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point. I just wanted to jump in on the comments here. I think it would be to your advantage to pull in all those businesses in a conversation and discuss with them and see where they'd like to be, what the impact would be on them, because effectively, you could possibly get these guys to help contribute to possibly a sidewalk in front of their business, and everybody builds that in front of their business and carries the weight, and then potentially distribute some of that cost to the particular business involved. And it may go a long way, and then to help encourage, that community build, which is what we're all trying to do. Thank you.
Thanks. At this time, were there any other comments from any council members? We'll go back to comments from the general public. I missed Mr. Brown, so I'd invite him to the podium.
Thomas Brown, 7436 Candlelight Court. I'd just like to remind the mayor and the council that CRA funds are provided from the state to the county, to the city, for the purpose of eliminating blight and slums. Period.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. At this time, if there's no other comments,
If you wouldn't mind, I forgot a couple things, Mayor, should have written them down. It's all right.
Mr. Lord.
I just wanted to,
Mr. Lord.
I forgot to thank Councilwoman Nally for being out to the UACAC giveaway. Thank you. It was good to have you and your encouragement with the people. It was good to see the city represented that way. And the other thing is our Christmas program. We've been helping, and I'm sorry I forgot to announce it, but we knew when we redid our fellowship hall that Port Richey didn't have a civic center. So we have done it for the purpose of helping serve the city. So I just wanted the council to know the last 2 years, our Christmas parties got messed up and we've been helping. So I talked to our leadership, and we will make our fellowship hall available if we can help the city. Say we get bad weather, if we have time and get ahead, let you know that'll be an alternative that we can help host it there, okay? I apologize for not getting that earlier, but thank you. Thank you for the
Pastor.
time.
At this time, were there any reports from any of the CAC committees? I didn't see anything signed up.
She's not here.
What's that? Okay. I saw other people from the CAC, so I was just curious. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Any motions to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With that, I wanted to move on to council business, which the first item is going to be the consideration of police department impound surplus. And I was going to turn that over to Dr. Martinez for an overview.
Thank you. For your consideration tonight, council, is a list of police department impound surplus vehicles. There's about 40 vehicles on the list included in your agenda packet. These vehicles are currently housed in the city's storage facility. They're either damaged, out of service, or otherwise unusable by the city and have no value. We are asking you to approve these vehicles as surplus to be sold at a public auction at the Tampa Machinery Auction. We're looking for a motion to approve that list.
And I had a question. Were some of these vehicles seized by the police department? Is that what happened here?
I believe.
Yeah, they were taken in for whatever the reason was. They were seized or impounded. No insurance, possibly the intoxicated drivers. You know, the reason that the vehicles were taken off the road is that they don't have the proper documentation to be on the road, so that's why they were taken in.
Normally, I wouldn't stick my nose in, except he's an attorney. These are not seized
They're not
vehicles.
seized.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure there's no.
You see, he thinks that, no, these are not vehicles that are being seized. We rarely, the police department seizes vehicles. It's now a $1,000 filing fee to proceed with a seizure.
Correct.
Okay, so we only do it occasionally, and, but these are all impounded vehicles that people don't pick them up. We take them off the street, they don't have a driver's license, they don't have insurance, we take them in, they never pick them up. Right, Chief?
That's correct.
And they've already passed all the statutory thresholds
Yes.
in terms of.
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, the one thing I changed in the new code, what I was explaining last time, and I met with Brian over in the police department, is that, yes, it's a very detailed process. We send out the 2 letters. Rarely does anybody ever object. I haven't heard of a hearing in a while. And yet we go through the whole certified mail and notices and everything, and there'll be one more step in there where I'm going to review that paperwork and sign it on it.
I just wanted to make sure that no one had any ownership interest.
No,
Before we sell their cars.
No, we not only do that, but state law requires us to send notices to the lien holders, et cetera, and trust me, they do a real nice job over there, Ryan does.
Yeah, Ryan does a great job on it. So everything, our obligation has been fulfilled.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Were there any discussion from council? Any motions?
Motion to approve the list of impounded vehicles as surplus to be sold for public auction at Tampa Machinery Auction. Second.
And I don't see anyone that signed up for discussion with the public. So at this time, I don't see any hands either. we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. At this time, I'd like to move on to item number 4. It's going to be the consideration of public works, utilities, and surplus vehicles.
Council, for your consideration is a discussion on the surplusing of 2 Chevy pickup trucks, both year 2004. These are vehicles that have reached the end of their useful life, are not able to be in service anymore. It's not economical to keep repairing them. Both of them have been out of service for over 2 years. We are asking tonight for a motion to approve these 2 trucks to be approved as surplus and sold for public auction at Tampa Machinery Auction.
Thank you. I'm going to open up for discussion or motion at this point from council.
I have a quick question. On our prior vehicles, is it possible if a decent vehicle comes in and we need one for our utility department or anything, or does it have to go to auction? Can it be kept by the city?
No,
Okay.
I can give you a long answer.
No, that's all I need to know.
Okay, we'll go back to item number 4. I've opened that for discussion and/or any motions amongst council.
Question, do we need to replace these 2 trucks, or have we already done so in the 2 years that they've been out of service?
They've already been replaced.
Okay, so we're not looking to purchase 2 new trucks in the near future?
Not in this budget year, no.
Then I motion to approve the aforementioned Public Works Utilities vehicles as surplus and sold at public auction at Tampa Machinery Auction.
Second.
Before we put it to a vote, there was someone that signed up for this particular item from the general public. It was Pat Rogers. Okay. Anyone else? Seeing no hands at this time, I'm going to put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to item number 5, which is going to be the consideration of a power secure generator maintenance agreement. And I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Martinez for some introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, for your consideration tonight is the Power Secured Generator Maintenance Agreement for the City Hall and Water Treatment Plant generators. Since the city took over ownership responsibilities of both of those generators in 2017, we have paid for a maintenance agreement with Power Secure. They have moved now to a 3-year contract term, with a very small rate increase for this year and rate locks for years 2 and 3. We are bringing this to you because it exceeds the city manager's purchasing threshold. When we've approved this maintenance agreement in the past, it's only been for a 1-year term and it was much lower cost. We are asking you tonight for a motion to approve the Power Secure Maintenance Agreement for 3 years in the amount of $11,070.
At this time, I'm going to open for discussion and/or questions or any motions amongst council.
One
Wait.
quick, go ahead.
Is this the same generator that we're talking about replacing completely?
It's for the main city hall generator and the water treatment plant generator. So it's the generators that we have been talking about.
Okay, so
Mhm.
and this is just the maintenance agreement with that company?
Yes, the only difference is they're moving to 3-year contracts instead of 1-year
Okay.
contracts.
And then my question would be on the maintenance of these generators. We don't have staff qualified for basic generator maintenance?
This is for something that would be above what staff can do.
Okay.
We can replace the fuel and basic things,
And
but
change the
we're
oil
not,
and do all
right,
the-
but they're not trained
This is above that, that's
to have
just-
specialized skill set for
Okay, that-
maintaining the generator.
That answers my question, thank you.
And the only other thing that I wanted to know is, were there any other options that would be in the same or lesser price with the same type of service, such as like Duke Energy, for example?
I believe this is the company that Duke Energy recommended that we use when we took over ownership responsibilities. I believe this is the same company that they used. So we didn't look at another company because they already had familiarity with our machines.
Okay, so they've been doing it all along then?
Mhm.
And my question is, did we go and solicit pricing from any other vendors besides the Duke Energy, or are we just rolling it through with Duke Energy?
We were just rolling it through. We based it on a continuation of services.
And I guess the only question I have is that it looks like a pretty good amount of money for maintenance. Is that within the market of what it would cost that you're aware of?
It seems to be consistent.
Over
For
3
2
years,
generators.
$12,000
Yeah.
over 3 years?
That's for 2 generators.
Oh, that's
Right,
two
it's for two
Generators in 3 years.
I got you.
Yeah, it's about $3,600
Right.
a year.
Yeah, that's all the questions that I had. I'll open it up for any motions.
Yeah. Motion to approve the power source generator maintenance agreement.
Second.
At this time, I saw that there was someone signed up. Pat Rogers.
Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset Boulevard. How often do they come in and test the generators to make sure they're gonna be working when we really need them?
We have a monitoring service that tests the generators remotely every single week, and then they come at regular intervals of time. I think it's actually listed in the contract, what frequencies of time they come out to do different types of service on the generator. So it varies depending on what needs to be done.
Okay.
And no one else was signed up, but I see a hand out there. Mr. Mueller?
Oh, I did sign up for them. Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue
Maybe
Point
you did.
Drive. I always like to see more than one bid, but the increment wasn't that material to me. What I thought was material is that we were prepaying 3 years in advance rather than invoice annually for the service. It's just a point that I always
I think we can
stick
pay
my,
per year.
I always stick my vendors with that. And it's a real easy way to do that. You change the contract, you draw a line through it, and you indicate it's invoiced annually, and they can sign it or not. I think that's, you lose leverage when you have your money up front like that. But anyway, that's the only observation. If they're not performing, you're kind of stuck, and then you gotta go to court. If you haven't paid them, then there's still some leverage. Just a thought.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Well, I was going to say, by doing the upfront purchase, is that where they've locked us into a no rate increase for the following 2 years?
Right.
Okay, so there is a benefit to it.
I don't see anyone else that signed up or any hands. At this time, we have a motion and a second. I was gonna put it to a vote. If there's,
We don't pay it in advance, we don't. No, that's a fact. We can cancel.
One quick question I have, they have a recommended load bank testing that isn't part of the service agreement. Do we typically handle that outside of the service agreement, or we don't do it?
Which page are you on?
I'm on page 24. For recommended servicing, they have all of the fluids analysis, which is part of their maintenance agreement, but then they have the load bank testing, which doesn't seem to be part of their maintenance
No,
agreement.
I believe they do that for us as well.
Okay. Because they have the separate pricing,
Right, for certain services.
which is outside of their
Right.
breakdown up front.
And then they charge for certain, like when we were trying to repair the automatic transfer switch, they charge for those labor calls of things that are above what's in the maintenance agreement, that, reach a threshold that's above what's considered annual maintenance. So yes, we do pay additional services at times beyond what's in the contract.
with that, is there any further discussion amongst council? If not, we have a motion and a second, so at this time I'd ask to put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to move on to item number 6, which is gonna be the consideration of a purchase to replace a roof on the Public Works or Utilities warehouse. And I was gonna turn that over to Dr. Martinez for introduction on that particular item.
Thank you.
Your time's up.
Oh, perfect. That works. Council, for your consideration tonight is the approval of a roof replacement on the Public Works Utilities Warehouse, which we colloquially refer to as Lupo Hall, that is located at the back of the City Hall property adjacent to the water treatment plant. This is the facility that houses all the city's very large equipment, the Vector truck being the primary piece of equipment that's housed in that warehouse. The roof is rusted, very badly rusted. It's missing entire panels. It's a metal roof. It's causing damage and wear to the city's very, very important equipment. This facility is over 20 years old. It was donated to the city. It needs help. It needs a new roof. We have gone out and gotten 3 quotes to do this repair work, which are included in your packet for your review. We are asking tonight for a motion to approve the repair work on this facility by Mitchell & Sons Roofing in the amount of $16,500. And as you can see in the photos, it's in bad shape. It's very badly rusted, and entire sections are missing from the roof.
Thank you. Thank you, Sal.
Got it, yeah.
At this time, I want to open up this consideration, this agenda item for consideration in terms of any discussion and/or motions. The question that I have is, I see the 3 bids, and there was one that was high enough that it looked like it was way out of the ballpark. There were 2 bids that looked like they were within around $5,000 of each other. The question that I had is, I've never heard of Mitchell & Sons Roofing. I have heard of, and it's a reputable company, there was another bid, Farrell Roofing, that I recognized as a local business. 2 things. Do we know if we're comparing apples to apples, number 1, and number 2, if Mitchell & Sons, who's the lower bid, has the same reputation in the community as Farrell Roofing?
I honestly don't know if they're comparing apples to oranges, and I've never heard of Mitchell & Sons Roofing myself. So I don't have any knowledge about them.
I'm assuming Mitchell & Sons Roofing is bonded and insured?
I'm assuming so too. It does not specifically indicate that on the quote, though.
That could be a big problem for a publicly.
That was one of the concerns. I didn't recognize the company. When you look at Farrell, the Farrell company, you always see the trucks with the bonded and license posted right on the truck. So that was one of the concerns that I had looking at the 2 different bids, the lower bids at least.
Yeah, we can look at them if you like, with more detail.
I say we table this.
Yeah, I am looking back at it, looks apples to apples, are using the same gauge material and things like that on the roof, so it looks like the materials are the same, but obviously that is a big question about bonded
Sure.
and insured, so.
And then the only other thing that I would want to know, other than bonded and insured, is if they have experience in the community in terms of what type of experience they may or may not have. Because I don't want to award the bid and get in the middle of an issue where it's not done properly, and then we have that type of a problem.
My other question is, was there any type of announcement to the general public? Is, anyone interested in bidding on the roofing for the roofing replacement from any of our businesses beyond Farrell Roofing? And is there ability to do that before we award? Because there may be someone cheaper out there who is bonded and insured, or whatever the case may be.
In a case like this, no, they would just call vendors and try to get 3 bids to meet the purchasing requirements. If a project is over $25,000, then that's something that would be put out for a public bid.
Yeah, but we could also announce it on our website or something of that nature. Hey, and upcoming projects or something of that nature, perhaps just, another avenue.
Now that we have the 3 bids in and the 2 that we are looking at, as we check out the reputation, the insurance, do you now take it to each person and say, this bid came in, can you match it? Can you match this bid? Could we ask Farrell if they'll match that bid? Or do better?
We can try.
Well, then let's do it. I mean, they're in our backyard, we'll give them a chance to do it if they're right here.
No, I agree. So at this time, I still have to ask, are there any further discussion or motions at this time? Motion dies for a lack of a first and/or second. So we'll table the issue and hopefully bring it at a later date.
We'll certainly get more information and bring it back.
Thank you. The next item that we had up for You did, if you want to, come on up, Mr. Mueller, we'll hear from you.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point. Looking through that, I also had to struggle with the ability to compare like to like. In the future, you might want to institute a bid matrix that identifies every bidder, the components in the bid, the comparison, like to like across the table. One of the items missing is references. I believe somebody, Todd may have picked up on that. And warranty is missing. It's not consistent across all of these as well. I did some rough math on square foot. One of the guys did have a P times Q for square foot involved. It looks like it's about 36 square, about 458 a square. That's kind of in the ballpark of what stuff should be. This is metal. I'm not real familiar with what metal costs. One of the guys had the sunlight panels. The two of them didn't have anything referencing that at all. So these are some concerns when you're going through and evaluating a vendor. And if you're comparing like to like, because you've got apples and oranges in the price, it would behoove us to try to put some kind of discipline, if you will, with your bids, and it will help drive us as a group to the right decision. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. With that, I wanted to move on to the next item, which was number 7 on council business, and that's to the discussion of Nick's Park boat ramp and the potential of a parking kiosk. So what I'd like to do is have Dr. Martin, well, I guess what I'll do is I'll see if anyone wants to open this for discussion.
I brought this up
Okay.
again. We did review this at one time. At one time, there was a moratorium on us collecting any fees for that park, which has now expired. So we can now collect fees for that ramp, which will help maintain it. There are a few options that we've looked for in the past, and a lot of them require gating that drops across there. But being down there on the weekend, I could see that gate getting knocked out 2 or 3 times a week. There are standalone units that they can put their ticket in their window. Our police go past Nick's Park several times a day, so it would be pretty easy to check that way. I want to start looking into that. Some of them are solar powered if it's too expensive to run power out there. But I think we should start collecting money to help. That park costs us a lot of money, and we're not collecting a dime. So I think we need to start, and Ms. Martinez can start looking into current pricing, because the stuff we have was from when we requested it prior to the moratorium coming off. So if we can move forward with that, and anybody else has any feedback to that.
The only issue that I saw with it is it looks like it's a fairly small area in terms of there's not a whole lot of spaces there. So depending on what you charge, I don't know how much money you would make, and then should be a cost analysis.
Well, it's not just the parking, it would be a ramp fee, so even the people who park in the other lot would have to pay it.
Okay, so you charge for,
Yeah, I would think this would go nowhere without a ramp fee.
Yep.
The parking's,
Yeah, it's not enough for parking spots.
and do you think there's enough, because has anyone kind of tallied the volume of boats coming through there to kind of know what we're
All
doing?
you have to do is try to drive by there.
We do
Okay.
have a survey that we did several years ago.
Okay.
And also on that survey, by the way, what was it, 90-something% were non-Port Ritchie residents? Yeah, so.
Very high percentage was not city residents.
Yeah.
Did for a weekend, we paid it off.
Yeah.
yeah, and we could do a tiered pricing plan where residents get a discount or a yearly pass or something.
Okay.
But I think that park needs a lot of attention now. We've turned down that one bid recently for a repair, I believe that was there. So funds are definitely needed, and they're using it, let's get some money out of it.
And so you think that we'll make enough money off it to be worthwhile, because it's gonna cost to set up and?
It's not that, they're not that expensive. They're about $10,000 on average for the kiosks. I did notice that some of them had maintenance packages that went with them, but we'll get further information on that, because some
Okay.
bid no maintenance packages, so I wanted to check what that entailed. But if you go out to, I don't know if anybody goes out to like, I think it's Anderson Park out in Tarpon, you see them on the parking out there. They're freestanding, they're pretty simple to use and operate. I don't think maintenance on them would be a real issue, but I think we just need to get updated information on the products.
And then the only other question, who would police that, so we'd have law enforcement down there?
They go past that
Okay.
multiple times a day. So they will all do is swing in and see if there's a red sticker, a red ticket in the window or not.
And so we'd have a special ordinance saying if there's not, there'd be a violation?
Jim and I asked him about that today.
Okay.
I think you put a big sign that says, $75 fee for not having it. It's a lot better than $5 for getting it.
One question regarding the red ticket. Let's say I, as a out-of-state boater or out-of-town boater, drop off my boat, I don't pay my red ticket, and then I go park in one of the private lots. Would you be patrolling that as well? I'm just trying to see the mechanics of that.
You'd have to catch them doing that.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, is it viable to just pay somebody on Saturdays and Sundays and/or Fridays? Do we get enough volume to support, you pay someone minimum wage and all he does is collect the fee instead of trying to get fancy?
I noticed Catches has somebody out there to make
Yeah,
sure nobody
Catches
parks
has
in their
someone out
parking
there
lot.
full-time and they sit
Yeah.
under an umbrella. Why can't we do the same?
Well, that's all things to look at, so.
I like the automated idea,
Yep.
just because I think it's probably less work on the city to supervise that and pay that and all that.
I think you'll
So-
get a lot more people probably jumping it or getting around it if it's automated personally, as opposed to someone standing there right at the boat ramp saying, you're not getting down until you pay me $5, $10, whatever the
Yeah, but then you're gonna have to have something to take credit cards or debit cards, and you're gonna have to.
square. Square on your phone, swipe and go.
And then you hope it's not like the vendors down in Tampa where they don't take cash anymore because the vendors whoever was working there would just put it in their pocket, so you have just different issues
It's
with
always
that.
something.
Yeah, so.
But we can get more information is what I'm asking for the kiosks, and let's start looking at it as, just as a potential source of income for maintaining that piece of property.
And the only other person that I wanted to ask, since we have it up for discussion, who I think is pertinent, is I wanted to ask the chief, kind of his opinion in terms of his ability or the department's ability to police that and
Well, first of all,
enforce it.
I don't think we can go into the private parking lots, and the city attorney could answer that. I don't think we have jurisdiction just to walk in and check the red, if you paid your ramp fee, do we have the authority to go in and enforce that in a private lot? I don't think we do.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Do we have permission for that?
Probably not. So we gotta be careful that we start something that we can't really enforce, but
Is that
as far as the
code
parks, we drive through the parks regularly.
Yeah, they probably
and
would.
It's not a problem for us. We drive through every park gets patrolled regularly throughout the day. And then, once they get locked up at night, of course, they don't go back into them until they're opened up again in the morning. But that wouldn't be a problem for us to enforce the parking in Nick's Park if you put a kiosk or, however you wanted to set it up.
No, I wasn't trying to shoot down the idea. I was just saying that it's really kind of a win-win if we can work something out, because either people from out of town will see that there's fees attached and stop coming, so for our citizens, it'll be more available and a lot easier to use, or if they keep coming, then we'll get money. So, I mean,
I don't think there's hardly anywhere left you can launch for free, to tell you the truth. There's
Yeah, there's
very
no
little.
place close,
We're about
really.
the only one, and we've got pretty good access to get out,
Right.
right down the river.
Other than over in, I think Newport Richie on
Same
River
spot.
Road, there's that ramp there, but there's really no parking there either, so it's the same issue.
The board we have, I just launched the boats there Sunday.
Okay.
How much parking is next park?
But I don't think they
It's
charge
free.
over Newport Richie.
That's what I meant, it's free.
That's the free one.
So a lot of people would probably just go over there, but that leaves our boat ramps to our citizens.
Yes.
So, there's certainly a.
So, while we're doing this, if I'm a resident and I want to put my boat in, so I'm going to pay a ramp fee, but I'm not going to park because I'm going to drive my trailer back home, are we going to have separate charges?
No, because you're still using the ramp. It's a ramp fee, not a parking fee, is what I'm gathering.
You could have
Well, I
ramp
got
fee and a
parking
parking
I've
fee.
got single parking spaces here too.
Right, they can park there, but once if they pay the ramp fee, they may have to go in the Kievis's yacht and pay another $5 to park there.
But if I'm just parking a single car over there, I'm gonna pay what, a park fee and a ramp fee?
No, yeah, it's not a parking fee. I
And
was
then
thinking.
if I live here and I'm dropping off my boat because I've had it out of the water and I'm gonna take it back to my dock, which I don't have, but anyway, if I was going to do that, then why would I be paying for parking? And I'm paying for a ramp fee to use it once, not to even take my boat back out.
Well, there's certainly some consideration too, that we don't charge people that pay taxes here either, because obviously a lot of the maintenance in the park, so I don't know if we're able to do that.
I think
The
that
only-
was an issue.
It's been an issue
Yeah.
before.
I don't know
mean,
if we can
talked
charge
about it.
outsiders and not our citizens, so I don't know if that's.
I think we came
allowed.
to that conclusion, we could not do that the last time we discussed this.
I thought we had, I think you can now, but I'd have to, excuse me. I think that was Johnson, you might be able to help me. Those were requirements when it was a community development block grant at one point in time, but that's changed since then.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any
Oh, so maybe
restrictions.
when
Yeah,
the
yeah,
moratorium
the
came off?
restrictions, early restrictions, I actually brought, that's why I brought my old memo, had expired. There was some early restrictions that expired in 2013, and we don't get those community development block grants. Now we get the money, gave us the money last time, yeah.
No, we still get CDBG money, but we can't use it on that side of the county.
Yeah,
That's
so I don't think
restricted.
there was. I
Yeah.
can look it up again, but I don't think that restriction, we can't charge difference for Port Ritchie residents than outside. I don't think that restriction is there. I couldn't
I'm
find it.
aware.
I think I looked it up the last time we did this, but I'll double check
Or
it.
we could have a discounted yearly rate sticker for.
Well, it wouldn't make a
residents.
difference. Difference is, can you charge differently regardless,
Right.
whether it's $1 or nothing, you know?
You can even charge on a single-time basis, $3 for residents, $5 for, I'm throwing out numbers here, but for non-residents.
Well, I guess the point is, it doesn't make a difference whether it's $0 and $10 or whatever.
Right. It's
It's
just if
either
it's
gotta be
different.
the same or not the same. You can allow it not to be the same,
Mhm.
because that's how the restrictions used to be. You have to charge the same. So the money was coming from the county, but I don't think that's been the case in a while now. That money, they've changed their rules, I think, and we haven't taken money. We'd have to go back and look, but I don't think it's a problem anymore.
Okay.
And
Then-
not
then-
just charging, but the enforcement, to say, when you go to enforce it, if a defense is, hey, the locals park there and they don't get tickets and they don't have to pay, and we have to pay $5, $10 or whatever, is that gonna be a problem with the enforcement end of it?
No, it's the same thing. I mean, if
Okay.
you charge this.
Red
yeah.
tickets, blue tickets,
Yeah, right,
whatever,
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the short answer is no.
I just wanna make sure that there's no issue there, but.
I don't think so. I'll check.
But that's certainly a concern, because obviously, we pay additional taxes within the city, so to have to pay on top of that to use the city boat ramp would,
But again, on the study, there were very few residents that actually used the ramp.
yeah, but that may be one of the reasons, is because it's always packed over there.
If they
That'll
wanna
be
put their
packed
boat
and
in, they'll
cost money.
get their boat
Right.
in. There was also a question on proving residency too. What are we gonna do, have stickers that say City of Port Ritchie resident?
Well, I think the same as when you register, for example, a golf cart within the city, they come up here and they show certain, whatever they need, their documentation, and obviously one of the requirements, I think, is to be a resident. So you just have to show proof of residence, but we could set that up here at the city hall, I would think. We have the employees here, so I don't think that'd be a problem, but I agree, I would hate to charge people who are already paying taxes to maintain that, to then launch a boat there, and utilize it.
Well, I put this forward so we can start thinking about it. I don't mean to, to dwell on it, but
Okay.
I think we need to, there's an income source, and the park needs revenue. There's a lot of work in that park, so I think we need to start digging into it, get some more information, and then work it out.
Well, what I want to know then, at this point, if there's any further discussion, if not, what I'd see if there's any motions from council to put together, or see if they'll put something together.
We can make a motion to look into the updated kiosks and any fees for residents and non-residents.
Does anyone second that?
Second.
Before we vote, I wanted to open up just to the general public, anything that we've discussed here. I know that someone had signed up, it was Pat Rogers, so I wanted to invite her to the podium.
Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset Boulevard. It was my understanding when that property was given to the city, it had an exclusion in it that it was for free use of all the citizens of the city. And I thought that was in perpetuity. That's point number one. And then number two, I don't see why we can't give the citizens a sticker, the ones that want to use the ramp, put that in their rear window. And they're already paying taxes, so, and then non-citizens either put a sign up, you know, X amount of dollars a year or so much a day, because some people use it a lot and some people may use it once or twice a year. So give them the option of, because that's the way the fishing licenses are. You get a 3-day license or an annual license. Also, with the boat ramp that was a 2-boat at a time ramp, but I understand that the prop wash from Sun Cruise has again made it a little more dangerous over there. Can't we get them to pony up for some of the money to repair that, seeing as they're causing the damage?
Question.
Okay.
Dallas, do you know for sure that the prop wash was washing that out?
I haven't had any involvement in it. That would, you have to go through DEP or those guys.
Can we
to-
find out if they're contributing to the
Well-
deterioration of the ramp? I've heard this too.
It
but I mean-
was, when they first came in, they washed it out so badly, we had a cave underneath the edge.
Well, I believe you, but you
So-
know, we need to know for sure.
But that may be a tough, sometimes those legal battles are more expensive than they're worth if you get into something like that, so.
Public opinion, public opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. And I think Mr. Mueller may have signed up for this as well, and then I'll have Reverend Spalding.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. As you can see from the discussion, there are a lot of anomalies here that probably need to be vetted a little better and at length. Potentially, maybe a low-tech solution initially to see how this flows, and maybe partnering with the bait shop or one of the restaurants where you can bypasses there, and then move to a high-tech scenario with a kiosk or something along that. But I think you guys have hit all the issues on nails on the head. There's got to be a fair price structure. When you have a boat and a trailer and a car, that's probably twice the fee than just a car parking there. Okay, so I did some rough math. Say you put $10 on a boat, a trailer, and a car, and a $5 on a car, and if it was every spot for the weekend, both days, we could generate about 38 grand annually. That would certainly cover a kiosk. And then if you factor in some lower percentage, 25% of use on the weekdays, that could be another 15 grand. So there's about $50,000, $54,000 that could be generated by this. I think it's a great idea. One of the other options scenario with the low tech is when an individual parks there initially, if they can't buy a ticket and they get a ticket, they get a card that says you mail it in, and you can, maybe we got an annual pass structure and apply a portion of that fee toward his annual pass, so that people, you know, kind of a friendly way of encourage adherence to the situation. Like I said, if we could partner with the bait shop, like they sell fishing licenses, potentially you might have an opportunity there as well. Start with the low tech, move to the high tech, see what the real numbers look like. Thank you.
Thanks. And just to comment, I was thinking about that too, looking at the numbers, that if you look at the numbers now, that you might get that kind of money. But the one thing I would expect if you start to charge is a lot of people don't want to pay, and they'll go to Newport Richey or another ramp that doesn't cost. So I think our numbers will go down in terms of that usage.
I'm not necessarily convinced of that because they pay $5 across the street to park right now, and they don't, those parking
still
lots
go?
are full.
Yep. So you think they'll just
So-
keep on coming?
$10, sorry.
Okay. So-
One other question as part of the future, can we get that survey that we did to see how many?
And then Reverend Spalding?
Sandra Spalding, 8612 Green Street. If I remember correctly, the family that donated that property to the city had stipulations that we had to allow, I don't know if you remember this, Pat, but we had to allow people that lived in the county to use it too. Now, if you can check all that out before you go ahead and put any more money into it or do anything, but I know the family had stipulations, because we went through this about 15 years ago, maybe a little more than that. And we couldn't do anything because they stipulated they could take the land back. Now, I'm getting older, my memory might not be so great, but I kind of feel that there were stipulations there.
I remember reading part of the deed, and I don't know why, that there was stipulations.
Exactly.
To transfer of the property. I don't know if it was for county use or how that was broken down, but I know there was definitely stipulations on that
That they would
property.
take the.
On that deed transfer, rather.
They would take the land back and transfer it wherever it was to their family back again, whatever. But check those stipulations, okay? I'll leave you with that.
I can give you some information on it. Thank you.
And we have some information now, so we're gonna.
Yeah, I researched this before, not to be confused with Waterfront Park. 1920, Mr. Nix donated the park to the city. And this is after I did considerable research on this back in 2000. 3 trustees were appointed to hold the park in trust for the benefit of the city. Those trustees are long since dead. The state community fund that monitors, land trust committee, whatever they call that, that monitors Waterfront Park, has not taken over the monitoring of this. The only deed restriction that runs with the land, it's in the deed, is it must be used solely for park purposes. Also, the park be kept in good shape, whatever that means. Remember, this was written in 1920. There was litigation regarding that back in the early 20s, and there was a settlement regarding the boundaries of the park. Okay, but it didn't change any of that. In 1980, the city received a grant in the amount of $51,500 from the now defunct Department of Natural Resources. That's when the first restriction came into being, that said, in the event the city elects to implement a user fee system for any facilities, the city agrees to impose such fees uniformly among the users, regardless of race, sex, age, religion, or other condition, or the political jurisdiction in which the user may reside. So that restriction was there in 1980 when they got the money from the precursor of the DEP. We then began to borrow money from the Department of Natural Resources through the county in 1988, and I can take you through the whole thing. All of those have expired as of 2013. The only thing I think we looked at briefly when this came up before was the more recent community development block grants that I don't think have those. So I'll check them again, but I don't think there's going to be a restriction here. Okay? But I'll check and get back to you. I think we had looked, but we'll look again.
Thank you.
Not to go into any more detail on this, because I think we're beating a dead horse
Yeah.
at this point, but that's a survey we did that break apart residents from non-residents as far as usage goes, or do we have any idea of?
It did.
Oh, it
It's
did?
very detailed. We paid someone there.
Yep.
Oh,
Somebody, I
perfect.
think before the chief, like $600. I think it was one of the officers off duty.
I think so.
Oh, no, it was about 90% non-resident, about
Yeah.
10% resident. and
So
something
then we
like-
could theoretically give residents free use of the ramp versus non-residents.
Based on those numbers, you can.
Yeah, it was a lot. There
Yep.
was a lot of people used it the weekend. It was like a spring to spring day.
So,
Spring weekend. It was 3 days.
so this time I think we've had pretty good discussion. There's a motion, and I believe in a second that I heard. And at this time, I wanted to put it to a vote. All in favor?
Excuse
Aye.
me, clarify the motion, please.
Motion was to do more research into the kiosks and other forms of moving forward with it, and there's one more
Including
item.
pricing structure for the.
Yeah, for residents or
Residents.
non-residents.
Yep.
Okay.
And is that framed appropriately for?
Yeah, you can do that by consensus. All you're doing is asking Mr. Lupo to do something, and
Okay.
then order him to do it, so you can do it by motion, yeah.
Okay.
You're
All
asking him
right.
to look into it more, right?
Yep,
And
Not
there
to
was,
spend any money.
not to spend any
Not to
money, is
incur any
exactly right.
contracts.
and there was sounded like there was a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, thank you, guys. The next items, there's 3 more items left on the agenda. We'll go to item 8. The rest of the agendas are going to go to Mr. Matthew.
Very
Um,
exciting stuff.
And the first one is the first reading of ordinance 19669. In that regards, placing of items on the city council agenda, which we voted on preliminarily last meeting.
In background, this is the exact same ordinance that was prepared to change it, and the only thing I've done in this ordinance is strike the additional language that was placed in it last time to make it back to the way it was, if that makes sense. So I haven't changed anything outside of take out what was put in there so council members could put something on the agenda. Having said that, this is the first reading of ordinance number 19-669, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Richey, State of Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Council Division 3, Meetings, Section 2-80, Agenda, and Section 2-85, Order of Business, and providing for severability, inclusion in code, and effective date. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 19-669.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We'll go on to the next item, which is the first reading of 19-670 regarding revisions of the city code.
These are the two ordinances I discussed, I believe, at the last meeting regarding just pretty much the changing of the numbering of the code as well as certain constitutional references. No substance change outside of the one thing I mentioned about that I'll be signing the final orders so we don't get ourselves in trouble on the surplus vehicles. And one thing, and by the way, when this happens, you're going to have the codes here. There's going to be a lot of our vendors out there and our contractors very happy because when they look to see what you can do for zoning before they go into Mr. Foss's office, they'll know that the regular code is not where the answers are. It's in the other code, and they have different numbers. But in any event, one thing I failed to mention is I actually moved one of the chapters. I think it was impact fees. Impact fees were passed, and it was in the city code. And a few years later, we passed the land development code. So I took that chapter and put it in there, just so it's where it should have been anyway. And having said that, is the first reading of ordinance 19-670, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Port Richey, Florida, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner and amending such code, and providing when such code in this ordinance shall become effective. Looking for a motion. This is the Port Richey Code.
Open it to council for any discussion or motion.
Motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 1970?
Is there-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the first reading of 19-671. This is the Land Development Code. Ordinance number 19-671, an ordinance and by title only, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new land development code for the city of Port Richey, Florida, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code in this ordinance shall become effective. Looking for a motion.
Open it to council for any kind of motions or discussion.
Motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 19-671.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's pass. At this time, I wanted to, we've completed all the items on the agenda. I wanted to move to any old business, and I wanted to open any old business for discussion in terms of council at this point.
Okay. I have questions about the police dispatch. How close are we to getting that finished?
The county is really helping us out on this. They want it all done and operating by October the 1st. So we have a couple of training dates set up in September to start training, the officers on how to use the new CAD system. So hopefully by October the 1st.
Okay, so this will be easily generated rather than having to sit down and do it by hand now?
It's going to make it a lot easier. We could do the pie charts and all kinds of things out of that system instead of having to sit in front of the computer screen and count each.
Okay, so as of October 1st, we can just get this printed up rather quickly?
I'm hoping.
So we can have one every month?
Yes.
That would be excellent. And are we going to improve the atmosphere in the dispatch office?
I just ordered the two new chairs today, and we're talking with the Public Works guys and going in there and cleaning the floor up. We had the security company in there today to move that rack that's in the back that the radio guys have advised us to remote it someplace else and get it out of there. So, yeah, we're getting that atmosphere all cleaned up.
So when we get this done, I hear the fire department's having an open house in October. Are we gonna have one for the police department so that the people can come in and see this new system?
It would be nice, yes. I don't have a date yet, but
That's fine.
the county is
We'll
pushing for
wait for a
October the
date.
1st, so we'll
We'll wait for a
definitely
date.
have it. But that's gonna correspond, the fire department's gonna correspond with fire prevention, so they're gonna have an open house. It's gonna be a nice event.
And that's all the old business that I had.
And to follow up on what she was asking, I know the dispatch room had the equipment and stuff sitting on the floor. Have they constructed shelves and conduit to hide the wires and all that?
Right, I've also been, Tom McCann, we're gonna bring in a licensed electrician to look at all the things that, and I'm sure with the help of Dallas, we can get that room up to code and get all the electric cords off the floor, their trip hazards and things like that. So, yeah, we're gonna move all the equipment that should be out of the way and free up that room.
So that's in the works right now?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
very good. Any other old business? Tom? At this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, guys, good
Second.
meeting.
Gotta vote on.
Second. You're gonna vote on.
You said I didn't have to vote, right?
No second for it, but you still gotta vote on
Oh.
it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You got a lot of